That
And this is so Halloween Havoc. Stan Hansen, what do you think he's saying here, Tony?
Oh God, in my mouth, a big chaw tobacco, and take a look at the head of Jim Hurd. I'm going to spit right on his head. Well, that's okay. Ole Anderson brought me in, and I'm going to take this. Is there somebody behind there? What the fuck? I'm going to take this bail. I'm going to stick it right up Lex Luger's ass. As a matter of fact, you're going to find out he is going to scream like a little bitch.
You nailed that. You did that perfectly, dude. And
spot on.
I'm trying to think if this is the one where JR talked about. He said, "Did you hear Luger? Did you hear Luger? Luger was screaming like a little bitch when Stan was whipping him. Maybe not. Because that probably. I think he and Stan ended up in a bull. Is this a bull rope match?
This is the match that Luger is not a fan of.
Right.
Exactly. He's a bit OCD. He's a bit of a neat freak. I mean, Tony, you famously told the story once that when Lex would go out, he would occasionally have the staff peel his shrimp for him because he didn't want to get it on his fingers.
Yeah, the bartender would have to peel the shrimp.
So I'm saying all that to say, now he's going to wrestle a guy who's covered in his own tobacco juice and may or may not want to spit tobacco on him after the match just because he can. Yeah. And I'm sure it's like, from Stan's perspective, because as I understand it, it was discussed ahead of time, don't spit tobacco on me. And of course, Stan does what he wants and spits tobacco on him because I'm sure Stan's thinking, what's he going to do?
He's probably better off not even saying it.
Yes. If he wouldn't have said it, now you brought attention to it. Now I got to do it.
That's right.
Isn't it weird the way we're all just assholes to each other? It's amazing.
Isn't it? Okay.
We're just assholes to each other.
Do we think this is going to have a better outcome than Lex Luger versus Stan's former partner, Bruiser Brody?
Well, it couldn't be any worse, right? But I think Lex probably needs his whole team. And boy, speaking of teams, I saw you early on spot that magic jacket in the front row of 1990. Man, this is another one of my favorites, a guilty pleasure. And I know I shouldn't like it, but you talk about polar opposites. Like, this is kind of what wrestling was about to me as a kid. You got the jacked up, good looking, neon colored baby face. And then you've got this badass heel who you feel like, man, he could beat up anybody, but he's a mean, nasty heel wearing all black. Like, when you just boil it down, these characters, this is pro wrestling to me in this era, Chris.
I mean, as a kid, I did not like this match, but I didn't know why. And I think it's just, it's just an ugly match, and it's meant to be an ugly match. Yes. And I think the contrast here, I mean, as a kid, I loved Luger, but as an adult, I think Hansen's one of the greatest. I don't know, man. When Hansen finally sells, he just lends so much credibility to his opponents because, man, he just is, he is unapologetically him. There were a lot of people that did that romp and stomp and cowboy gimmick over the years. And I haven't had the privilege to see them all, but there is no one that did it, in my opinion, quite like Stan. Like, he's just so damn rough. Ooh, and it just, what a great contrast of styles.
Yeah. Stan made a lot of money in Japan too, didn't he?
He sure did.
With that gimmick. Absolutely.
Hundreds of tours.
Right.
Hundreds of tours.
Yeah. And one of the odd things is, and I got to know Stan, was he was such a nice guy behind the scenes. He was nothing like what you saw right there. Nothing like it. It was a great contrast in real person and character. Great contrast.
There was a tour I did for Noah in 2015, and Stan was along that tour with us. Maybe like 5 or 6 shows. He would make appearances. And so we get to spend a little bit of time with him in the locker room, and just a sweet older gentleman.
Yeah.
And he's got his glasses and trying to figure out his smartphone. And you're just like, just what a sweet man. Yeah. And then you see, like, I mean, he would make grown men cry.
Yeah. There is, I do believe, Conrad, you may know this, Chris, you may know this. They They had another match, didn't they?
Yes.
They had a strap match. I believe they had a strap match. It may have been at a Starrcade or something that same year. It may have been during the Black Scorpion match.
I think this is where he drops the title, and then that's where he wins it back. Memory
Okay.
serves.
But it was that strap match, I believe, where Stan was whipping him, and JR said you could hear him crying at ringside. He said every time he hit him.
Yeah, it looks like boy, they hooked it up a few times on house shows and things. But you're right. The bull rope match was Starrcade 1990 at the Kiel Auditorium. That is where the title changed. So here's where Stan's going to win it in October. He'll drop it back in December. Along the way, though, I guess we should mention this is their fourth show where they worked against each other. The other matches were just house shows in Baltimore and Atlanta. We'll do 2 more house shows before we get to the pay-per-view, one in Memphis, one in Knoxville. But as far as TV matches, that's it. Just these 2. The rest were all house shows.
Ole is to be credited with bringing Stan in because they were friends, and Ole was booking at that time. And I remember hearing from Ole, he said, "I'm going to bring in Stan Hansen." And so Ole's the one that got him in, and Ole's the one that brought Vader into WCW too. Because Ole said we were looking at tapes of the helmet, you know, and all the entrances from Japan and everything. He said if somebody to the effect of, you know, I've heard something spectacular, that's spectacular.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So he's the one that credits it with bringing him in, and of course, Vader went on to have an incredible run. Incredible run.
It's crazy, right? The way we remember things, and then when we look back on how things line up chronologically. WrestleMania 3, Andre and Hogan, that was 87. December of 87, if I'm not mistaken, that was when Vader debuted for New Japan. And I, cannot imagine, Vader with the helmet and stuff in the same world as Hogan and Andre.
Wow.
Right? It's pretty wild that he had, a 3-4 year run before he ended up coming to WCW.
Right. And beat up a lot of people.
Yes.
Beat up a lot of people that weren't wrestlers, unfortunately.
Tony, have you ever seen that famous match with Vader and Hansen where Vader's eye gets wrecked? It looks like his eye pops out.
No.
Oh, we gotta watch that one day.
Yeah. They're going fisticuffs, and then just instantaneous, boom, his eye pops up. They stop the match for a little bit to make it look, I don't know if, the lore is that it gets popped out and had to go back in, but I think it just got him really, really good. Ooh, is a brutal one. But again, it just lends credibility. I'm not saying you got to pop someone's eye out, but just that physicality, you can't go through the motions on that. And the Japanese crowds are just insane. It's 2 of the most popular, the most memorable gaijin foreigners in Japanese wrestling history.